Good evening. Welcome to the third episode of Employment Law Today, a show that's dedicated to small and mid-sized business owners who are trying to navigate today's complex area of labor and employment law, particularly as related to COVID-19 and the regulations imposed on many of us as we try to go forth with our business. My name is Eric Sauver. I'm the host of the show. I'm from the law office of Eric M. Sauver, and I specialize in employment law and business law for the management side and for companies. And tonight I'm joined by a guest of mine, a colleague and good friend, Mr. Vikram Rajan, who is the co-founder of VideoSocials.net and PhoneBlogger.net. And I'll say a little bit about Vic in a moment. I first want to welcome him to the show. Vic, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. It's funny, we've done some video networking before, video marketing. Usually I'm on the other side where you're the one hosting, and then we'll get to that in a bit, and I'm recording for some of your events. But again, really happy to have you, Vic. I'm going to introduce you in a minute, but first I'd like to take a moment just to describe to those listeners who might be tuning in for the first time what Employment Law Today is about. And the basis of our show, the main goals are threefold. First, I seek to educate, we seek to inform you, to let you know about some of the newer updates in employment law or labor law that may be impacting your business today, especially as, again, as I mentioned, related to federal, state, or municipal laws around COVID-19, rules and regulations around hiring, firing of employees, paid sick leave, and so forth. The second goal, I should say, of the show is to inspire, and to keep you informed, but also inspired in terms of having guests on the show who are running successful businesses, and they talk about what they're doing to thrive and survive during this complex COVID-19 pandemic. And the third goal of the show is to give you the resources and tools that you need as a small business owner and to address some of the more common problems that you're facing in these times. And those may be issues involving marketing, involving cybersecurity, involving employee relations, and of course, employment law. So with that being said, I will jump to the top of the hour updates that I'll be giving. I'm going to highlight two updates in the news in recent weeks for our listeners. And if you have any, I won't go into too deep of a dive right now, just the overview so you're aware of these topics and you can feel free to look at them on your own on the websites I'll be quoting, or you can email me if you have any questions, you want a more in-depth dive, you can reach out to me at ems@ericsauver.com. And those two topics for today are as follows. One is a recent United States Department of Labor update providing additional guidance on COVID-19 related leave for school reopenings. And the crux of this is many of you may know that if you have employees who have children at home who were being homeschooled previously due to the COVID-19 pandemic, their schools might be closed, for example, that those people could take paid leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and under similar New York State laws. And so with schools moving to a hybrid learning and to an online or in-person way of operating, the new guidance from the Department of Labor says that, in a nutshell, if your employees are parents and their students, let's say their children are online learning exclusively, then they can still take and receive that paid sick leave or that paid leave emergency FMLA under the Coronavirus Federal Paid Leave Act. If their school is completely in person and open, then the employee may not be allowed to take that leave. This may apply to you as well if you or a spouse are working for a company. And if the school is a half and half, part remote and part in person, then the person may be able to take some leave to the extent that the school is on an online basis. So just a little update about some of the federal and state paid leave rules for employees you might have that are parents. And then the next topic, and the information on that you can find on the U.S. Department of Labor's website, frequently asked questions section. And then the second update of the week, and the final one, because I want to turn my attention to Vik, and I want to tell our guest more about what he has to say and share some of his background. But the second update has to do with the New York State COVID-19 laws around sick leave. So many of you may be aware that your employees can take certain paid sick leave under New York State law, and including quarantine leave is on top of the federal paid leave. And so recently, New York State this summer had passed some legislation and then updates that legislation, which essentially said that if you or one of your employees are voluntarily traveling, not for work, but for recreation or other reasons, to a high-risk state, Florida, Wisconsin, Texas, that has more than 10% positivity rate per 100,000 people in that state, then they may be invalidated, ineligible for taking paid leave. So if you're aware of employees who are visiting friends and family all across the country and it's not essential for travel, then you might have a say in their leave policy. But if you send them on a business trip, that's another story. So again, just some updates for the listeners. And if you have questions, you can email me at ems@ericsharvard.com. Now, to change to perhaps a topic that some of you might find more interesting, I personally find this all fascinating, but for those that might be interested in video marketing, the main topic of our show tonight is video marketing in the time of Corona and staying top of mind for clients and customers. And so, as I mentioned, I'm joined tonight by Vikram Rajan. I just want to read a little bit of an intro, Vik, if I can, to our audience about you.
Sure.
Okay, great. So our guest tonight, as I mentioned, is Vikram Rajan, co-founder of VideoSocials.net and PhoneBlogger.net. Vikram has presented on behalf of every major bar association in the greater New York City area. His marketing column is premiered in the AICPA's CPA Insider publication, and he's become one of the most popular columns as of July 2010, and since then has had many publications. Vik, as he is known by his colleagues, clients, and friends, has presented in front of many networking groups and organizations as well. And he's done a 2008 book he published, 365 Marketing Thumb Rules, Daily Reminders for Rainmakers. And lastly, Vik has received much praise from organization leaders in the legal, accounting, and financial services industries and real estate. And in 2005, Vikram was named as top 40 under 40 rising stars by Long Island Business News. And in my opinion, I think since then, Vik has more than lived up to that prediction of a rising star. So Vik, again, pleasure to have you on the show. I did mention you're a co-founder of VideoSocials.net and PhoneBlogger, and happy to have you tonight. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm good. It's another busy day, which is great. I'm sure you know the feeling. I'm sure our listeners and viewers know the feeling. And so looking forward to making this informative and hopefully entertaining.
Indeed. Busy day. I'm sorry, Vik, you know me, I can't relate in the slightest to that, but I'll try. But those
right.
Yes, quite a busy day. And it's, like I said, it's really good to have you. So as I mentioned, folks, Vik runs VideoSocials.net and PhoneBlogger.net, which I'll get to in a moment. And when thinking about this topic, it dawned on me that during this pandemic, a lot of us we're not as visible to our colleagues, to our clients, to our customers. We're not in our offices. We're not at networking events live and maybe doing them on Zoom, but we're not really out there. We're not seeing folks on the train or in the shared office spaces or giving workshops. So I wanted to ask Vik a question, which kind of dovetails into the topic of video marketing today. But before addressing video marketing in the time of Corona, I'd like to take us on a little bit of a history, if I may, with one of our an expert here, Vik, in the field. Vik, can you give us a brief history, a rundown of video marketing pre-COVID-19 pandemic? And what I mean by that is, when did this form of marketing really take off? And what types of industries and businesses have you seen that can or have been most benefiting from video marketing?
So I think there is almost like two eras, and maybe this is the beginning of a third era. there's the first era in and around the time when everyone was shocked to the point of ridiculing Google for buying YouTube for over $1 billion, $1.65 billion, I believe. And this was around, I want to say 2006. And so that was a while ago. And so people were shocked that this website that I don't think was making any money at that time, probably losing money, that Google would be buying. And it was just like ridiculous to people. Since then, of course, it's turned out to be a pretty good investment. It's the go-to place. It's the #2 search engine in the world. Obviously very video specific. You mentioned video on the internet. It's practically synonymous with YouTube to the point where, they've got their TV and live streams and all bits. So that's their own world part of it. So I think that's kind of the first era where video was kind of proving to be kind of part of the internet. The second era, I would say, and I'm just, pardon me, we always say to silence phones on VideoSocials, I'm doing that. Second era would have been probably around 2017 when Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, announced that they were going to change their algorithm in two ways, to be mobile first and to be video centric. And that was also kind of the revolution of it. And it was kind of probably around the same time, I have to look it up, when Facebook bought Instagram. Another time that they were like ridiculed for spending over $1 billion on a company that made no money. And Instagram at that time was very photo-centric, now of course very video-centric. So that was kind of for me, like the second era. And that was really when I feel video started becoming a mainstream aspect of B2B or business to consumer type communication, where that was the beginning of businesses using video. Now, it was still a very minuscule percentage, and to this day, a very relatively small percentage. LinkedIn followed Facebook in 2018 when they too announced that they were going to follow in Facebook's footsteps, as they often do, to change their algorithm to prioritize video posts over written articles. And that really changed the game for us in a bad way, in a negative way, because as LinkedIn, and most of our clients are LinkedIn-centric, lawyers, accountants, coaches, consultants, as they were pushing up video, they were consequently pushing down written articles, which, as you mentioned, phone blogger, that's what a phone blogger does. We interview our clients over the phone and turn what they say into written articles. We still do that for clients around the country. And written articles can perform very well in certain situations, but on social media, it's getting beat up by the fact that video is so prioritized. And so I wonder, I don't know, but I wonder if we're entering kind of a third era, which makes it even more mainstream, but much more where it's integral to our day-to-day. And I suppose conjecture, these are all just kind of made up eras, right? Where I sort of think in conjecture mode that video is, like what you mentioned earlier, so integral to our day-to-day, very much in the time of COVID, where we don't really have a choice. It has to be a proxy for being in person. And I wonder how it will mainstay, where there was definitely this groundswell that's been happening, and now to stretch the metaphor, a tsunami, because we have to, where this is what we're doing. Like, we have all these statistics of what video would be, where they were projecting into the year 2020. All the statistics are exaggerated by COVID, that obviously we're spending time on video. We don't really have a choice, to the point of Zoom fatigue and all that stuff. And so I wonder, let's say a year from now, as the vaccine's there, most of us have taken it, and we have this thing under control, hopefully that's true, that in the summer of 2021, how will video play a part? I think it'll actually be a renaissance, so to speak, where we will start to enjoy this as opposed to feeling obligated, where we have no choice. We can't even meet in person, so we have to meet this way. And that it'll be kind of more enjoyable, like, oh, you know what, I don't have to travel. It's now a choice, and it'll be actually something that we will want to do. It's, we were forced to eat our vegetables as a kid, and we didn't really maybe enjoy it. But now as adults, we kind of enjoy a nice salad every now and then. And I think the choice, we will enjoy video marketing, video socials, video blogging, etc.
I think that's an excellent background. And, we're up for a commercial break in a moment. I would just note that all the timeframes that you had mentioned were ones I can relate to. I remember in 05, 06, 07, that stage of video marketing going up. And then, of course, I remember back in 2017, 2018, that's when I was hearing and seeing the most about video marketing in networking groups that I was in, through articles, through recommendations, through colleagues posting. And we've got to take a break now, folks, a short commercial break. When we come back, Vikram will discuss with us some benefits of video marketing over other forms of marketing. He'll touch more upon that, along with some discussion of how to stay top of mind, what are some benefits during the COVID era, and lastly, he'll touch base on what VideoSocials.net is all about. So folks, stay tuned. Again, this is Eric Sauver with Vikram Rajan, my guest. You're listening to Talk Radio NYC, Employment Law Today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Hey, all you listeners, looking to boost your business? Why not advertise on Talk Radio NYC with very reasonable rates? Interested? Simply send us a message on our website, talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Graham Dogwood. Join me every Thursday evening for the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc. We speak to people from business, sport, military, and politics, all around what makes a great leader. Their personal experiences of what's worked and, maybe more importantly, what hasn't worked. So, that's 7 o'clock every Thursday evening, the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc. Listen to real stories of real leaders.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back, folks. This is Eric Sauver from the Loft of Eric M. Sauver, here with my colleague and friend Vikram Rajan, co-founder of VideoSocials.net and PhoneBlogger.net. And we're here on Employment Law Today, which, by the way, is on Tuesday nights weekly from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on talkradio.nyc. So Vic and I were talking before the break, for those who may be joining us late tonight, and Vic gave us a little rundown, a history of video marketing, the different phases when it really picked up. We talked about how people laughed at Google and Facebook for buying into this, and it turned out to be a really good investment in terms of buying YouTube and Facebook's changing their algorithms and such. And Vic, I was going to ask you a question, which you sort of answered in your description of video marketing's evolution in terms of some of the benefits, in terms of how it surpasses, let's say, written articles or written print media content like blogging. And I think I heard you say that these days video marketing gets more SEO or more recognition online on LinkedIn and other social media perhaps than written articles. Is that a fair statement? Is that something you were stating in your...
Yeah, it's relatively fair. I mean, the algorithms of the social media platforms are now prioritizing video. So if you want to kind of game the system, so to speak, you kind of play by their rules. And so that's a fair assessment to say that if you're going to really take advantage of the social media algorithms, it's going to be video. Google kind of finally got its act together, I want to say a year ago. Prior to that, they weren't really utilizing YouTube as an asset in their typical search engine results page. And then they started losing traction to Facebook, LinkedIn, and stuff, where they would lose the videos. People weren't posting to YouTube as much because they may as well post where their friends were or where their potential clients are on the social sites. And so now they've incorporated it, where now if you search for something, the YouTube results will actually appear above the regular search engine results in the marketing colloquialism, jargon, slang, it's been come to known as position 0, kind of thinking it leapfrogs even position 1 to be in the top spot of Google, while you go into position 0 through video.
That's crazy.
So, and Google now indexes YouTube descriptions. So from the search engine optimization standpoint, they basically incorporated YouTube into their world. So yeah, video is great for social, which is essential. All of this stuff is really an extension of word of mouth marketing. So for anyone that benefits from word of mouth referrals, these platforms just make it easier for people to get to know you and for people to share you with others. As I mentioned before the break, it's a proxy for being in person. You could, a picture is worth 1,000 words, video is maybe 10,000 words, right? So it's tremendous. And it's a lot easier for a lot of us to do. I mean, we, as I'm sure you know, as an attorney, parsing over every word and making sure the intent is there, and let alone all the grammar aspects of it.
Sure.
With video, a lot of that is taken off the table, and we don't have to speak in full sentences. Sometimes it's even more effective not to. And so from an editing standpoint, so long as we're more ourselves and have a conversation, we can be even more effective on video in a faster amount of time. And then there's a waterfall cascading effect where you have yourself on video, relatively easy to take that audio, for example, and use it as a podcast, case in point, transcribe it into text. And if you're doing it as a one-person monologue type video, you now have the makings of a blog post, a written article, which is ironic because it's what a lot of our VideoSocials members are doing, which basically mimics what we've been doing for years at Phone Blogger. So we're taking the audio and turning it into written articles, especially now that we are debuting automated captioning and things of that nature. It's basically the same stuff as taking the video and putting it back into the written word, which for a lot of people, there are advantages for written articles. A lot of people skim an article faster than fast forwarding a video. I mean, even Netflix and YouTube, fast forwarding and rewinding is a pain in the neck. It's always buffering and lose context. So with written word, you're able to skim that faster. So I think mixing the two, you get an even greater effect.
I tend to agree. I think you get a synergistic effect when you're mixing those two mediums. And I think that it's interesting because, we're talking about how video marketing can position you higher up. I like that phrase, position 0. I hadn't heard that one before. So I learn something new every day, but I like that. But what comes to mind that distinguishes, at least for me, and from my personal experience doing video marketing, whether it's short video clips, whether it's doing webinars, which has been happening more and more virtually since COVID-19 hit, I found that it's not just a matter of being a higher search engine result, but it's a more personable way to present yourself. Because I can, for example, pay for a billboard advertisement on a route 56 or on a highway somewhere, and I can make it really, really large, have my name and my picture in big letters. People driving by will see it. Maybe there's a phone number there. Maybe they'll remember it. Maybe they won't. But staring at my picture on a billboard or at my name, or even seeing my quote on an article somewhere, it doesn't have the same effect as seeing somebody present or talk about an issue. You can feel someone's passion. You can feel their down-to-earthness, everything from their, their personality, their personability, their imperfections, their smoothness. You can see it all. I think it's a more three-dimensional picture. And I think that a lot of businesses don't always recognize that component, that you're seeing the person and you're seeing more of them in different facets. And I think that's maybe a good segue perhaps into VideoSocials, which I want to hear you talk about. And I also would love to then segue into a bit of what are some of the obstacles that people are finding that you've seen people have said when you approach them about video marketing during COVID-19. Like, people are saying, well, I don't have time for that now. I've got to focus in on really running the business or learning all these employment laws. Unless they give Eric Sarver a call, they call me, I can talk to them about it, happy to do so. But let me turn to you for a minute there with VideoSocials, or more than a minute, because I think it's a really interesting concept. So you started VideoSocials, was it 2017, 2018? When was that?
Last year, 2019.
2019, right, okay. And what I like about VideoSocials, it has a little bit of a different flavor to, unlike other companies that might offer video marketing services. Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about, or tell us about how it works and what makes your company different than other video marketing companies out there, ABC Videos, Inc.
I think it goes to one of the other questions that you were going to ask me afterwards, because I think For us, we created VideoSocials to solve the challenges, the problems our type of clients were having. It wasn't really something that we necessarily set out to do. It was really trying to help our clients, our everyday attorney clients, some of our clients and accountants, and we work with a good number of coaches and consultants, and they get their business, their new clients from word of mouth referrals, much like you do. Right. And so they do a lot of networking, and they're presenting on panels. And so they also, let's say if they're phone blogger clients, they're putting out blog posts by social media, but also by email newsletter. And when these social media channels, as I mentioned, change your algorithms, they started getting affected. And so we needed to figure out a way to help them. And our first solution was essentially to recommend them to go see videographers and go work with videographers, some of whom we know, that I would essentially recommend, because we're not videographers, and I don't really compete with a video marketing company, really, or a videography company. Sure. It's not what we do. And so we would say, look, set aside an afternoon and get a whole bunch of videos done, and they'll get it onto YouTube. And once it's on YouTube, we can run with it because we know what we're doing then from a content marketing standpoint. It was the logistics of it, technology of it, if you will. The problem was the budget. It wasn't even like, all right, you're going to do one great video. It was like, all right, now you have to keep on doing it. And so it adds up, even if it's relatively inexpensive, it just adds up over time, let alone the time itself it takes to create the video. Our clients didn't have it, couldn't make the time. They're very busy. For them to get out of the office to go to a studio was even worse. And now, they don't have that option, but they can do remote video, and even that's cumbersome, and they didn't have the effort to do it. Let alone, some of them got very nervous on video, and to some degree that's kind of, people are getting over it because of Zoom and things like that were on video almost all day long, that people are, but you turn on that recording light and you see that little red light, and people get a little humana, and they get really nervous, and which is ironic because we're real time and live all the time when we're talking to people. We mess up a word, or we forget a quote or a date, or all right, we figure it out. And the irony is that usually with video, you can kind of redo it. So for most of the time, except for Facebook Live, we can redo it. So it's kind of odd that we would find it so stressful, but a lot of our type of clients did. And so with all that being said, we wanted to create an environment that was structured, to be convenient and comfortable, but also hopefully fun, so that from a habit process of wanting to keep doing this, it was not only productive from an ROI, getting new clients, but also a fun atmosphere so that it's enjoyable to do it, because anything that's a habit and you have to do it over and over again, you can sometimes fall into a rut and not want to do it because it gets boring. And so we wanted to make it interesting. So we created these things called a video blogging club. And I know we could chat more about what the structure is like, but it's very similar to any other Zoom meeting that all of our viewers and listeners may be sick and tired of going to, but it's 8 to 10 professionals, about 45 minutes. Each person presents a 2 to 3 minute topic, and then you get feedback from one of your peers. As a member, you give feedback to the presenter after you, who gives feedback to the following presenter. And so it goes to the round table, and 45 minutes later, everyone has recorded an episode of their video blog together, fun and done. The final video is just you. Everyone else is hidden and on mute. And that leads to part 2 of VideoSocials, which is the app, the Brander software that we developed, which we're automation partners with YouTube and Facebook Live and LinkedIn. And so when our members are ready, they are able to type in a topic title that gets branded onto the video. And our software adds their logo and contact information. The attorney advertising disclaimers are added automatically. And then when they're ready, they push the right button and it posts for them automatically.
Right. It's interesting, Vic, and we're about up to our second commercial break any moment, so I'd love to get more into that with you. But what I definitely hear, and what I found to be true also, just from my experience with VideoSocials, the times that I've tried it and so forth, is that it does force the person to commit, because we can easily put video marketing on the back burner of our to-do list. And you have a to-do list, you go down the list each day or week, and of course, you find yourself, say, something else comes up, right? I have a big client matter I have a brief to work on, or maybe I have a Department of Labor issue to resolve for a client of mine or a new client to talk to. And so the video marketing gets pushed back, kind of like website revision. Then all of a sudden it's like as sight gone, forgotten. So VideoSocials, by meeting, what I hear you saying is sort of it gets us all into the, or it gets your clients, gets people into the mode of practice, of discipline, of habit. And forming positive habits, in my opinion, especially around business and networking and marketing, is a really key for success. So when we come back, let's talk about some of those habits. Let's talk about how it works, talk about the networking component, and how it is even a stronger, perhaps, tool in one's tool belt during this pandemic when we're all sort of far away or live on a screen. So, so everyone stick around. We'll be back in just a moment. Everyone, with Vikram Rajan over from VideoSocials.net and PhoneBlogger.net. I'm Eric Sauver, Law Office Eric M. Sauver from Employment Law Today. Stand by.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andal, for the show A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m., so tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration in your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a curious person, always asking questions? Do you desire to be in the know? Then join me, Antonia, host of So Now You Know, Thursdays at 5 p.m. at talkradio.nyc. Listen in as I attempt to satisfy that curiosity. I will be talking with amazing, everyday people. Join the fun. So Now You Know on Thursdays at 5 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back, folks, to Employment Law Today. I'm here again, like I mentioned, with Vikram Rajan over from VideoSocials.net. And we've been talking about video marketing, talking about the benefits of that to business owners and companies and professionals, talking about staying top of mind, being more personable. People get to see your whole personality on display. They see what you know and how you articulate yourself. We talked about video marketing being a great benefit in terms of just practice. And this is, I think, something I feel strongly about, Vic, that it helps us because with Zoom now, with people making virtual presentations to clients and pitches, there aren't those in-person cues that we get when we're standing in a room. And sometimes there's a glitch. For example, the microphone might have a little static. That's why you folks see the microphone now closer to my face. But there are all those little things that can trip us up. So I think video marketing, especially the way you do it with Video Socials in weekly sessions, can really help us to get over some of those issues around speaking before a crowd or public speaking on video. But it's interesting because you mentioned just having you had clients and you tell them to go out and video market and they put it in the back burner, or it'd also be very expensive. And I wanted to ask you about how you see Video Socials from a perspective of how it might save your clients money compared to mainstream video marketing. I don't want you to trash on video marketers that you know or anything like that, but just rather, you've got clients, let's say, like here's a scenario as I see it, the environment. You've got businesses, whether they're professionals, lawyers, accountants, they could be could be a business owner, could be a brick and mortar restaurant, could be a coach, but they're thinking that maybe money's a little tight for some people, and they see predictions of a recession looming, and they're a bit scared, and they might be hesitant to spend money on video marketing. And I think one thing that I see about video socials is a difference in price point. So I'm not asking you to give away all your exact prices and such, but can you talk a bit about how video socials might be a more economically wise choice for
Yeah.
folks?
I'm happy to. I mean, it's all on our website, so it's nothing secretive. We
Okay.
purposely,
No secret sauce being given right now? Okay.
yeah. We for us, the community is key. Our members helping one another. Where yes, they're recording a video, but I kind of use the analogy of, look, you can take your bicycle and go for a bike ride anytime. You can pick up your cell phone and do a video anytime. Why bother getting a Peloton? Sure, there are logistical reasons. We're heading into fall and winter months, and that's a good reason. But there are those dedicated who will run or bike ride rather anytime, any weather. But the Peloton is still a solo sport, but it's done virtually together, and that community facilitates not only the habits, but everyone improving one another. And so the nervous newbie will learn from that pro presenter, but even the pro presenter is able to learn substantively as well as even presentation styles from other people. Even nervous newbies have something to contribute. So from that aspect, it's beyond the nominal cost. We know that as our members practice, but then essentially start posting their videos and get shared by others, it's incalculable. The ROI is so simple and so easy. So our VideoSocials Basic, our members are essentially joining at $99 a month. They're adding 3 or 4 new videos every month to their video library. That accumulates over weeks and over months. So they're able to go from posting 0 to posting maybe 1 or 2 times a month on LinkedIn or their other social media platforms, to posting and repeat posting 1 to 2 times every week, if they wanted to, daily, as they accumulate the videos. Because you post some video today on LinkedIn, the likelihood of every one of your connections seeing it is pretty minimal, probably 0%, so close statistically. So you got to repost that same video in a couple of days or a week from now, because you're at the bottom of their timeline unless you bump yourself back top of mind. So it's not only just the cost of doing that one video, but it's also the cost of getting it out there and repeatedly out there. And our members are able to get to know one another well enough where they start liking and sharing each other's videos out of friendship and camaraderie and rapport. They respect each other's expertise, let alone they very often have something in common. The CPA has something in common with the trusted estates attorney. So inevitably, invariably, there's going to be some a healthy overlap in terms of their video topics. And that makes it easier for them to share each other. So while we're not really a networking group, the networking effect is nevertheless there, like it is whenever well-connected, well-seasoned professionals gather. Could be, on a basketball court, on a golf course, or on a video socials club. We have that advantage where people are literally talking about what they do from an expertise standpoint. So people are learning from one another as well substantively. So from a cost standpoint, it's very nominal. Many of our members are part of our revenue share program, where when 3 or 4 members join because of them, their membership is paid for. So we're looking to make the cost of it nominal, and the ROI is definitely there. They're not going to earn a pink Cadillac out of this. That's not what this is. But we want to make it where it's easy to do, fun to do, and to the point of even gamifying it, where there are reward points for doing the marketing habits that they should be doing anyway. And those reward points can go towards things like captioning their video, which triples the engagement of their video. So we're looking to create a community of habits, as you mentioned before the break. For us, that's integral, because we know as our members are raving fans, they're going to propel VideoSocials as global community to really be at the likes, but different from Toastmasters or Landmark or BNI or other global business communities that we respect, we're fond of, and very much we're different from, but we're looking forward to being in their echelon.
Right. And I see that's a really good point there. I have a few points there you made. I mean, well, first you've got the aspect of that it's less expensive than other forms of video marketing. And again, part of this, I'll take a little diversion here. Part of the radio show is to certainly spotlight and give some presence and a stage, or give some some basic attention to people like yourself who are providing helpful services to people in this pandemic, and also to break down some of the benefits of these services and to get through people's perhaps misconceptions or misnomers around the services that you provide. I mean, we're employment law today, and I certainly talk a lot with people in the employment law field, and HR and consulting and employment relations and so forth. But equally important, I think, to a company surviving and being able to pay their employees is being able to get business. And equally important to a company having the resources to make sure they're complying with the labor laws is to have enough revenue coming in through marketing means. It's also important to have, let's say, for example, cybersecurity, as we heard last week from Sean O'Rourke from Combs and Company. So really,
A member of VideoSocials.
exactly right, and a member of VideoSocials, if I remember correctly. So I think it's very important. I think because I think that people tend to hear about things and without investigation, they kind of fill in the blanks of what they assume it will be. So you hear video marketing, you think, oh, it's going to cost a fortune. And I imagine we may have some listeners tonight who may perhaps be a little bit struggling. I've had a few colleagues of mine, we've spoken on the phone, and they've said to me, I've got to get back out into networking, Eric, because they said they've been stuck in their homes in Suffolk County or up in Connecticut and just not seeing their clients and not really being top of mind. And some people don't really feel comfortable networking on Zoom. So what I see here is that you're spending a lot less money, you're making videos, each week, and you're also part of a group where you're getting, you mentioned that sort of constructive critique. And I know that before folks get scared away by the phrase critique or criticism, we often don't like to be thought of as being critiqued. What I've seen from attending VideoSocials at times is that it's as a kind of a positive critique model, right? People give constructive feedback. So for example, they may point out, let's say if someone's a little too close to the screen, or maybe if there are a few too many fillers in their vocabulary and how they can change that. But I also hear there's a very constructive, positive vibe that gets people more confident and more comfortable speaking in front of a camera. And I think that with a lot of the stress with COVID-19 and what's going on in our current situation in the business space, and I think that with Zoom and WebEx and other forms of video chat being such a key part of our day-to-day with potential clients, with potential customers, with people that we work with or for, it's really key to have that constructive feedback about how we appear on camera. So there's an interesting formula, I think, an acronym you guys use and VideoSocials, am I correct? About when let's say some of our folks like listening tonight decide, they're running a business in the pandemic, they want to have more publicity, more top of mind, they want to have better SEO, et cetera. And so they go to you and VideoSocials. How might, let's say they're giving their 2 to 3 minute spiel, how might the response look like? What might you look for? What might the person who's critiquing them say?
Let's see if I can remember it, because we actually don't have a very clever concocted acronym. And it's changed over time. So we used to use KIP, keep, improve, practice, or post.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually refined it, and in the refining of it, we've lost the elegance of something that's pronounceable. And we said, look, it's more useful for it to be functional than for it to be clever, like it spells a really fun word or anything.
Sure.
So really, the word, so to speak, is EASMS, EASMS. I actually had to type it out to remember it. And it's basically the 5 areas, and it just kind of gives a framework for people to give feedback. The number one, to your point, Eric, where it's not that we don't want to be negative or we only want it to be rah positive. We don't want this Pollyannish, hey, you did great, when it was just not good. Sure. It's sometimes you need a little bit of tough love, and you need someone to point out something that maybe you're not conscious of yourself.
Right.
We have to do it in a respectful way, and we feel that as a community where people are getting to know one another, that can happen over time, because you can get some feedback that you don't want to hear. It's always better when it's said with a smile, said with someone who really does care about what you're doing, because you become friends and colleagues. And so the tough love can come over time, and it can also be chatted privately, so not to embarrass anyone. So my partner Mark very often does that by private chat, and he's run Toastmasters clubs and been president. So, and he's a trained coach, so he knows how to kind of level with people in a comfortable way, but nonetheless tell it to them straight. And some people are tougher than others. There is definitely a rule of no shoulding on others, meaning we don't tell people what they should do or should not do. We do definitely share it from a experience perspective of how it landed on me, of your video had this impact on me, and I may not be your target market. So the fact that you spoke in all bunch of slang and jargon, well, I'm not meant to, I don't know it, but I'm not the audience. If you are an SEC attorney and talking to hedge fund managers and broker dealers, well, you don't have to explain every 3-letter acronym, because in fact, if you do, it's kind of odd and awkward. Like, of course I know what you're talking about. So they almost have to speak in their jargon to kind of earn the respect. And then other times you shouldn't. So you know that yourself. We're not going to share that as members, but as members, we're going to talk about your energy. We're going to talk about the appearance. We're going to talk about the structure of your video blog. We're going to talk about what's memorable. And if I can't remember anything, well, that's your problem, because you haven't repeated it in a way that for me to remember it. And then we want to know, like, do I know who to share your video with? I may know literally someone to share your video with. That's a home run. But do I know the kind of people that you would want me to share your video with? And again, if that wasn't clear, well, as you being a marketer, creating a marketing video, make that clear. So EASMS, EASMS, is really where we are right now. Maybe we'll be able to create some concocted, clever word out of it. And we were like, who cares? It starts with the energy. We find that most important, and kind of a circular effect on the other end of it is, do I know who I'm going to share your video with? From a word of mouth marketing, that becomes so important. So all those kind of 5 areas, I welcome anyone who's listening or viewing this to come on VideoSocials as a guest and really experience it and get some of that feedback. It will be positive and reinforcing, but not in a rah-rah sense, not in a gimmicky, motivational way. Hopefully motivational
in a real way, right?
Yeah, in a way that, yes, as you said, Eric, builds your confidence. We want people to feel confident, but not to put out stuff that won't represent you well. But usually we're harder on ourselves than we need to be. And sometimes, even our own family and friends can be more cynical and sarcastic than we need to hear. So don't take advice from someone that, or I think there's a phrase, don't give advice. Don't take advice from someone that you wouldn't do what they do. So if they're not video blogging themselves, I'm sure they have something valuable to add, but take it with a grain of salt, because they don't know what it's like. They're not doing it. But if they are doing it, they do know what they're doing. And you want to be like them, well, then there's something to learn there. So I think our members are really able to help each other. And so I'm looking forward to your viewers and listeners to be guests. And
we have to take a break right now, a commercial break. We'll be back in a little bit, but I think there's really excellent points right there that you were just making. Folks, stand by. I'll be back shortly after this commercial break. This is Employment Law Today I'm Eric Savra, your host. This is our guest, Vikram Rajan. So we'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauber, employment law and business law attorney and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're a business owner. Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics in the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my very special guests
on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business, right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
And let me just unmute there, folks, and welcome back. I'm Eric Sauver, on Employment Law Today, here with my guest, Vikram Rajan from VideoSocials.net. Vic, you said quite a few interesting things there towards the in the last segment. If I may just recap a few of them for our listeners, I think there's really some insights there that you're sharing with us. I think starting out the fact that the feedback loop that's created by having folks come onto VideoSocials, each person does their video, it's recorded. The person who is then going, I believe it's after them, if I'm not mistaken, or before them rather, gives a critique, what they can improve on, how they can change things. And again, you mentioned that, you know, the critique, it's not meant to embarrass or whatnot, but it's also, it's not sugarcoat either. It's not, you mentioned the word Pollyannish, right? Because if we're really not being honest with ourselves and with our colleagues, then we're not really growing. And I think that's an interesting point. You know, when I heard that, I thought about my role as an employment law attorney, right? I often have clients come to me and they're in dire straits. Maybe people listening tonight might relate to this. People listening might have an issue where they have, say, a Department of Labor audit investigation, or they're being sued for overtime violations that they didn't realize, they weren't aware of. Or maybe their employee classification is off. You know, they have people incorrectly classified as independent contractors who really should not be. And when I'm giving tips on compliance and I'm working with these businesses, I have to give it to them straight. I have to tell them where they might be making mistakes and what those mistakes can cost them. So it's definitely, if I just sugarcoat it and tell them everything's great, then I'm not really doing my job. I'm not doing them a service. So it is good to be reminded that although there's that positive vibe to it all, there's some constructive critique, you know, in the mix. And I think, you know, that I mean, just my thoughts on that, I don't know what your thoughts are. I think that does something to improve the person's confidence, because I think a lot of people, and this might be helpful for our listeners tonight, if you're a listener and you're a small business owner and you're here to learn about employment labor law, and you're also here to get tips from professionals like Vikram here today, if you're fearful of public speaking and you're in the COVID-19 time, that could be problematic, because if you're trying to reach customers or clients and you're hesitant on Zoom, or you don't like to be on camera, you can run into some real difficulties there. You can run into some real challenges. So I think that, you know, whatever you can do, if you're, say, on a VideoSocials club and you spend the $99 for the month and you're making videos, which, by the way, as Vic pointed out, you can circulate these videos more than once, right? It's not just a one-time posting. You can post a week later, you can post 4 times a day. You can post on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. But if you're able to improve your presentation skills and you're able to face that critique and realize that it's not going to kill you, it might improve the connection when, let's say, you're speaking to a client or asked to appear on a talk radio show like this one. So really, I think it's a good skill that people out there might realize or understand. It's good for your business. And it's also good for your growth as a business owner. I think often business owners get into a mindset of the mechanic, right? Not the rainmaker. So they think, okay, this is what I do. So I'm gonna roll up my sleeves and focus on these tasks to say for a lawyer, for example, I'm going to write these briefs or motions, or I'm going to argue this case. And that's all great. But part of being a well-rounded business owner, someone who is really well-rounded and can succeed, is you really have to, I think, extend yourself. And I think networking and marketing and promotion is all, in a healthy way, is all part of that. So thinking about some of your, any interesting stories you've had, any stories that people joining VideoSocials during the pandemic who have given you some feedback or that you want to end with, and any also information you want to share with our viewers before we wrap up about how to contact you, like your VideoSocials?
You know, it's been a tough time. It's been a tough time for a lot of us, you know, economically. It's been a tough time emotionally for a lot of us. You know, I'm here in the New York area, as you are, Eric, and you know, we went through a heck of a time, in especially the April time period. And it's funny, I think my Alexa just woke up for some reason. But for us, there was a lot of catharsis. It was a real community that came together. People needed to vent. People needed to cry. People needed to come together. And to some degree, that maybe even is even more so than the marketing aspect. But ultimately, people are coming now for the marketing purpose. There's an ROI there. There's everything we just mentioned. We see it. We know we like engaging with people in real time or by video, not real time. So I think it's relatively simple. People can, you know, your viewers, your listeners, easiest way to get a hold of me is to go to our website, VideoSocials.net. In the lower right-hand corner of the website will be a chat box. It's not a bot. It's not automated. It comes straight to my cell phone, for now at least. Until it gets really annoying, I'll have someone else answer it. But I enjoy when people are coming on my website and want to ask a question. I'm like, that's really cool. I'll drop everything and answer that question, including from members. And if I can't help them directly, someone else on our staff can. But that's the easiest way. Of course, my email address is there, but Vik at VideoSocials.net, VIK. But VideoSocials.net is a place, and I look forward to having some of your viewers and your listeners to come on as a guest. And for them, at the very least, they're promoting themselves to our large community. We have over 111 members in about a dozen states now. So we're hosting multiple video blogging clubs every day. So ultimately, it's video blogging together, fun and done.
Vik, thank you. That's been excellent talking with you here tonight. So I'm glad we have your contact information. People know how to reach you. And we're about out of time, folks. The hour always flies by, in my opinion. But tune in Tuesday nights, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you like what you're hearing, want to hear more, you want to hear tips about employment labor law, you want to have guest speakers who can inspire you and resources to share with you. Don't forget that's talkradio.nyc.com. Again, I want to thank you, Vikram Rajan from VideoSocials.net and PhoneBlogger.net. Once again, I'm Eric Sauver. My law firm is the Law Offices of Eric M. Sauver. I practice employment law and business law for small to mid-sized companies. That's all for tonight, folks. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and feel free to tune in next week. I'll announce our guest on social media shortly. Thank you. Thank you.
You're listening